Imagine you're a chief learning officer. You're sitting at your desk, and you just have this massive challenge on your hands.
Right.
Your company has made this permanent shift to remote work, and, well, team collaboration is just completely falling apart.
Oh, it's a nightmare scenario.
Exactly. You're desperate for a solution. So you open an email from this really prestigious university digest, and the subject line promises exactly what you need, like insights on virtual team effectiveness.
Which sounds perfect.
You click it eagerly, hoping for a lifeline. But what you get is, well, it's completely unreadable.
Yeah, it's just this impenetrable wall of dense statistical notation, theoretical frameworks you've literally never heard of, and complex regression models.
Okay.
There's not a single actionable takeaway in sight.
And it just leaves you feeling entirely stuck. So you close the email, you sigh, and, you open up LinkedIn on your phone to just scroll for some tactical tips from a fellow manager.
Which, that is a highly relatable scenario. It happens thousands of times a day in organizations everywhere.
Sure.
You have these people genuinely looking for evidence-based solutions, and they just hit a brick wall.
And it's actually an incredibly dangerous dynamic.
Yeah.
So for today's deep dive, we're looking at data from 29 global human resource professionals spanning 5 different countries, actually.
Yeah.
And they are all pointing to the exact same invisible wall.
Yeah, this massive disconnect.
Right. The people who study workplaces and the people running them are basically living in different universes. So we need to figure out why this research practice gap exists and what it's actually costing us.
Because, whether you are leading a massive global team or just trying to implement a really simple new workplace policy, or honestly just trying to navigate the endless stream of corporate fads, this invisible wall directly impacts the quality of your work life.
It really does.
When research doesn't reach the workplace, everyone suffers the consequences.
So if we have this chief learning officer sitting there, right, frustrated by a paper they can't even read, why was the paper written that way in the first place? It can't just be that academics are terrible writers.
No.
There has to be some structural reason.
There is, absolutely. We are essentially looking at 2 parallel systems that operate with completely different rules, rewards and timelines.
Like they're playing different sports.
Exactly. Universities and organizations are driven by fundamentally different incentives. In the academic system, researchers are rewarded almost entirely for theoretical advancement.
Oh, yeah.
They get promoted and they secure tenure by publishing in elite peer-reviewed journals. Their currency is methodological rigor.
Right, but what does methodological rigor actually mean for the person just trying to run a business?
Well, it means the academic is incentivized to isolate a tiny, highly specific variable to prove a theoretical point, rather than looking at the messy, chaotic reality of a whole organization.
Because businesses are definitely messy.
Totally. Organizations, on the other hand, need immediate problem solving. They don't have 2 years to wait for a peer-reviewed study to isolate a single variable.
Right, they have a quarterly earnings report due in 3 weeks.
Exactly. They need measurable, practical outcomes right now.
It almost sounds like they are operating in different countries, speaking entirely different languages. But it wasn't always this disconnected, was it?
No, not at all. Historically, human resource development, or HRD, actually started out as highly practical industrial training.
Like actually on the floor?
Yeah, it was all about teaching people the specific skills they needed right there on the factory floor. But as the field professionalized and moved into universities, a huge shift happened.
What kind of shift?
To be taken seriously in the academic world, to not just be viewed as a trade school by the physics or sociology departments, HRD had to adopt the rigorous theoretical conventions of the broader social sciences.
So they essentially had to prove how smart and scientific they were by making the work way more complex.
Precisely. They shifted the reward structure to favor academic legitimacy over immediate applicability.
Yeah.
But in doing so, they inadvertently alienated the very practitioners they were supposed to be studying and helping. Actually, there's a great way one of the researchers in the study conceptualized this. They compared it to a jigsaw puzzle.
Oh, I like a good puzzle metaphor. How does it work?
Okay, so if you're a practitioner, you need the picture on the front of the puzzle box to build, say, a performance management system.
You need to see the whole thing.
Right. You need to see how all the pieces fit together, the budget, the psychology, the software, to solve your immediate problem.
Makes sense.
But the academic is handing you a single microscopic puzzle piece. It's a beautifully crafted, rigorously tested piece, sure, but it is completely disconnected from the rest of the board.
Wait, so the academic is handing them one hyper-specific piece like, I don't know, how font size affects reading speed on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
But the practitioner has no idea what the overall picture is even supposed to look like.
Exactly. And this helps us realize that academic research isn't actually broken. Academics are doing exactly what they are paid and incentivized to produce rigorous, specialized knowledge.
Right, they're doing their jobs.
Yes. The problem is that this deep fragmentation leaves practitioners utterly helpless. They can't assemble the complete picture under those urgent organizational deadlines.
Well, if academics are handing practitioners these hyper-specific, microscopic puzzle pieces that they can't actually use, practitioners aren't just going to sit on their hands.
No, they have to act.
Right, they have those quarterly goals you mentioned.
Yeah.
So where are they actually going for answers?
They bypass the academic system entirely. I mean, they hit those expensive academic paywalls, they see the dense prose, and they just turn around.
So they go to social media.
Yeah, they rely heavily on LinkedIn, podcasts, and industry webinars.
But isn't that a massive vulnerability?
Oh, it's a huge vulnerability. When you disconnect workplace strategy from rigorous evidence, you create a vacuum. And that vacuum is quickly filled by untested assumptions and, frankly, management fads.
Okay, we have to talk about the fads.
Yeah.
What's the most glaring example of a fad filling that vacuum?
Oh, the learning styles myth is arguably the biggest one.
Really?
Yeah. For decades, organizations have spent absolute fortunes testing their employees to figure out their specific learning styles.
Oh, I know this.
You know the drill like, are you a visual learner, an auditory learner, or a kinesthetic learner?
Yeah.
The idea pitched by consultants is that if you match the training method to the employee's specific style, they will perform significantly better.
Wait, I have absolutely taken those tests. I was told I'm a visual learner. Are you telling me that's not real?
It is entirely a myth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, rigorous cognitive psychology research has repeatedly proven that there is no empirical support for matching instruction to purported learning styles. It simply does not improve learning outcomes.
But wait, why does it feel so true? Because honestly, if you show me a complex chart, I understand it way faster than if someone just reads me a spreadsheet out loud.
Yeah. That's a super common reaction, but it's a misunderstanding of how human cognition actually works. A chart is just a better way to present spatial data for any human brain.
Oh, not just because I have a quote-unquote visual learning style.
Exactly. If I'm trying to teach you the shape of a new country, visual is best for everyone. If I'm teaching you how to pronounce a new language, auditory is best for everyone.
That makes so much sense.
Right. We use all our modalities depending on the content, not our personal identity.
Wow. So companies are just burning money categorizing people into these little boxes that don't actually change how they learn.
Millions of dollars. Yet, because the concept has such an intuitive, validating appeal, and because the empirical evidence debunking it is locked away in those dense academic journals, companies just keep buying into it.
And I imagine it's not just wasting money on fads either. It's also wasting time reinventing the wheel.
Oh, absolutely. The study highlighted this one practitioner who spent literally years developing a knowledge-sharing framework for their organization.
Yeah.
Years. And it was successful, actually. They even won industry recognition for it. But they later discovered that almost the exact same evidence-based framework already existed in the academic literature.
Oh, that's brutal.
If they had just had access to it, they could have saved years of painful trial and error.
Here's where I have to push back a little, though.
Okay, go for it.
If practitioners are getting quick, free answers on LinkedIn and in podcasts, isn't that just a more efficient market? I mean, if a manager at a tech startup solves a problem, posts about it, and then another manager copies it, why should they care if they skip the dense academic journals?
Right.
Isn't speed sometimes just better than deep theory?
That is the exact argument you hear from a lot of executives.
Yep.
But while it is undoubtedly faster, it is incredibly dangerous because you lack context.
Context.
Yeah. When you rely solely on LinkedIn posts or pure anecdotes, you are severely overgeneralizing from a single company's experience.
What do you mean by overgeneralizing? Like, how does that look?
Well, let's say a trendy Silicon Valley startup with 50 employees implements this radically flat feedback structure, and it works brilliantly for them.
Sure.
Then a manager reads about it on LinkedIn and tries to implement the exact same structure at a legacy manufacturing firm with 10,000 employees and a deeply hierarchical culture.
Oh, that would be a complete disaster.
It would fail spectacularly. Academic research synthesizes findings across multiple settings. It identifies what we call cross-contextual patterns and boundary conditions, meaning it tells you when and where a tool works, not just that it worked once for one guy online.
Guide.
Without that rigor, organizations end up implementing poorly fitting strategies that ultimately hurt employee growth and well-being.
Okay, the picture is definitely coming into focus now. The cost of this disconnect is incredibly high. We're wasting money on fads, we're reinventing the wheel, and we're risking real damage to our organizations by blindly copying what we see on social media. So how do we fix this structural mess? If the academic puzzle pieces don't fit the organizational puzzle board, where do we even start?
We have to start at the ground level, really looking at how research is done and who is doing it. And the most powerful tool highlighted by these global professionals is something called participatory action research, or PAR.
Hold on. Participatory action research sounds like a very dense academic term for just having a meeting.
I know it does.
What makes this different from a normal corporate consulting gig? A company has a problem. They hire a university expert to fix it. Isn't that just what consulting is?
Not quite. A consultant comes in to sell you a prepackaged answer. And the traditional academic model is a researcher coming in to use your company as a guinea pig for a question they already decided to ask.
Right.
PAR is entirely different. It brings practitioners and academics together from day one to co-create the agenda. They identify a real, pressing organizational problem, and they design a rigorous study to solve it together.
Okay, can you give me an example of how that actually works in practice?
Yeah, there's a brilliant case in the source material. A mid-sized tech firm was really struggling with onboarding new hires. Some people integrated quickly, but others just floundered for months.
Which is so common.
Very common. But instead of just hiring a consultant or letting a researcher hand out a generic survey, they partnered with university faculty to use PAR. The faculty didn't just observe, they held monthly, structured meetings with the HR staff, the technical managers, and the new hires themselves.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they co-designed the entire study.
So they were actively shaping the questions being asked.
Yes, and that collaborative design is the secret sauce. By having the HR staff deeply involved in the data collection and interpretation, they surfaced contextual factors, like the specific nuances of their team culture and psychological safety, that the academic researchers would have completely missed if they were just working alone from the outside.
So if the traditional academic model is like a chef cooking an elaborate meal in a locked kitchen without ever asking what the customer actually ordered.
Right. And imagine that chef is also getting their paycheck based on how complex the recipe is, not whether the customer actually enjoys the food.
Oh, that's so true.
That's the reality of the academic reward system. PAR is bringing the customer into the kitchen, having them help chop the vegetables, and tasting the sauce together to make sure it's actually edible.
That makes perfect sense. But who is facilitating this? Because it seems like you need someone who speaks both languages fluently to make that kitchen work.
You do. And the people who are uniquely equipped to facilitate this are what the industry calls scholar practitioners.
Okay.
These are professionals who inherently bridge both worlds. They have the academic training to understand the rigorous research they know how to read the dense statistics, but they work inside organizations, so they intimately understand the speed and the daily grind of the business.
The sources mentioned a financial services organization that leaned heavily into this, right?
Yes, they realized their senior learning and development staff had advanced degrees, but because of the daily grind, they had completely lost touch with current research.
Sure, they were just too busy.
Exactly. So the company created a Scholar Practitioner Fellowship. They selected 5 professionals a year and gave them 20% protected time purely for scholarly activities.
Wait, how does someone actually survive a 50-hour corporate work week and still carve out 20% of their time to read academic journals? Doesn't that just sound like working 2 full-time jobs until you burn out?
Well, that is the exact trap most companies fall into. You can't just tell an HR manager to be more evidence-based on top of their existing workload.
Right, that never works.
This financial firm succeeded because they actively protected that time. They reduced the participants' project loads, secured managerial buy-in, and partnered them with academic mentors so the time had structure and accountability.
That's amazing.
They essentially proved that an organization has to value the slow work of research just as much as the fast work of execution.
And did it actually pay off for the company?
The return on investment was staggering. Over 4 cohorts, these boundary spanners introduced 23 evidence-based interventions across the organization.
Wow.
They developed 15 research-informed training programs, and they also published 18 papers. It was a massive win for both the business and the broader academic field.
Okay, so individual collaboration is great, and giving people protected time inside a company is clearly effective. But doesn't this all hit a ceiling eventually?
What do you mean?
Well, none of this works if the massive academic institutions behind them actively punish that collaboration.
Yes. That is the core of the issue. We have to scale these solutions up to the institutional level, which means rewiring the academic system itself. We have to confront the publish or perish culture.
Because right now at research-intensive universities, tenure and promotion are tied almost exclusively to publishing in those top-tier, unreadable academic journals.
Exactly. There is virtually no reward for a professor who spends their time collaborating with practitioners, writing policy briefs, or actually improving how a real-world company operates.
That's so backwards.
It is. As we discussed earlier, tenure committees often look at a highly practical, readable guide and essentially say, this isn't theoretical science, this is just consulting. So even if an academic wants to do practical work, the system heavily disincentivizes it.
So how do you change a deeply entrenched university system like that?
One of the most inspiring examples in the research comes from a European business school that completely reformed its tenure system. They introduced what they called a translational excellence pathway.
Meaning they could get tenured for translating the complex science into practical tools.
Yes, faculty could actually secure tenure based on their organizational impact in practitioner publications, not just their theoretical journal citations.
That's huge.
And the results were immediate and massive. Faculty engagement with organizational partners jumped from around 20% to over 60%.
But let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Sure.
If a prestigious university starts offering tenure based on LinkedIn articles or podcasts, won't traditional academics argue they are watering down scientific rigor just to chase corporate trends?
It's a really common fear, but the European Business School example proves it's totally unfounded. It is not about abandoning rigor, it's about broadening the definition of impact.
Okay.
The systematic, rigorous inquiry, like the actual science, remains exactly the same, but the output of that science is translated so it serves society, not just a small circle of academics citing each other.
Which means both sides need to learn how to communicate. Academics need to learn how to speak the language of business, and practitioners need to develop what we call research literacy, learning how to actually evaluate empirical evidence instead of just trusting a flashy consultant.
Yes. And that relies entirely on how we disseminate the information. Because throwing a dense 80-page PDF at a busy manager just doesn't work no matter how good the science is.
No one is reading that.
Exactly. The research has to be translated into formats that practitioners actually consume. We need executive summaries, infographics, and yes, audio formats like podcasts.
Right. The dissemination has to meet the practitioners where they actually are. There was a healthcare system in the data that did this beautifully.
Oh, I love this example.
Yeah. They partnered with university researchers who were studying frontline leadership development. But instead of just publishing a paper that no one on the hospital floor would ever read, they translated the findings into a 20-minute podcast series specifically for their nurse managers.
And they took it a step further by having the managers actively discuss how to apply the research in their actual hospital wards.
That is brilliant.
The impact was phenomenal. They had over 5,000 downloads, and survey data showed that 73% of the listeners actually applied the evidence-based practices they learned.
73%.
Yeah, that is the gold standard of making research accessible and actionable.
So if companies are doing this and universities are slowly starting to change, what about the professional associations? Like organizations like SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management, or ATD, the Association for Talent Development. Shouldn't they be the ultimate bridge between these two worlds? They are perfectly positioned to be the bridge, but they face a massive uphill battle regarding their members' actual interests. Listen to this stark statistic from the research. Out of ATD's roughly 70,000 members, it's estimated that only about 500 actively value and engage with academic research.
Wait, 500 out of 70,000?
Yeah.
That is less than 1%.
It's staggering, isn't it? It highlights that professional associations can't just passively put a research tab on their website and expect people to click it. They have to actively cultivate engagement.
How do they even begin to fix a gap that wide?
By forcing the two sides to work on the exact same project. Look at the Joint Research Translation Initiative between the Academic Association, the Academy of Human Resource Development, or AHRD, and the Practitioner Association, ATD.
What did they do?
They had academic volunteers synthesize recent complex studies into short, accessible briefs. Then they had practitioner volunteers review those briefs to make sure they actually made sense for the real world. They created a shared library of resources that bridged the gap perfectly.
Okay, zooming out, the vision here is actually incredibly optimistic. The goal isn't to force academics to suddenly become slick corporate consultants. And it's definitely not to make everyday HR practitioners into full-time data-crunching statisticians.
Not at all.
It's about building comprehensive systems like reformed tenure tracks, co-created participatory research, and highly accessible dissemination that integrate the best of both worlds.
Absolutely. And for you listening, whether you are managing a small team, trying to pitch a new initiative to your boss, or navigating your own career, you can act as that vital bridge. You can demand evidence over fads. When a consultant pitches you a shiny new tool like a learning styles assessment, ask them to show you the peer-reviewed data. And just as importantly, you can translate your daily workplace challenges into the kinds of questions that are actually worth studying. You have the power to pull the research into your reality.
Today, we looked at the massive disconnect in HR and workplace development. We explored how the jigsaw puzzle pieces of academia don't fit the urgent needs of the corporate world, and how that gap leads to costly fads and wasted potential. But looking at the broader picture, it makes you wonder if companies are wasting millions of dollars on fake corporate fads just because the real workplace data is badly formatted. What other world-changing breakthroughs in medicine, technology, or psychology are currently sitting unread behind a university paywall, just waiting for someone to translate them into plain English for you?